Well, good morning. I am going to make sourdough bread today. I cannot believe how many requests we have had for this video in the last year or so. And I'm just getting back to making sourdough bread. It's been a while. And I would love to show you how I do it. It's so simple. You guys, you'll be amazed at how simple it is. Once you learn a few simple rules, you can do this yourself. It's really simple. And my family, especially Zach, he's been begging and begging and begging me to make sourdough bread. And I just haven't done it in a while. So I'm back at it. It's really, for me, the winter time is the time for sourdough bread. And here's why. Because it's cold outside, it's cooler in the house. We do have the wood stove going. But when you are feeding your sourdough starter, the warmer it is in your house or wherever you have your starter sitting, the more often you're going to feed it. So those little bacteria are eating the sugars in the flour and giving off gas, which is going to help your bread to rise. The problem is when it's warm, they eat more. So you have to feed your sourdough starter more in the summer. I will not make sourdough starter in the summer. I won't make sourdough bread in the summer. It's just, I have to feed it 2 or 3 times a day. It gets up to 100 degrees in here in the summer, and it just gets too hot. And those little bacteria are eating and eating and eating, and I have to keep feeding it, like I said, up to 3 times a day. And a sourdough your starter will spoil, and it will get moldy if you don't take care of it and if you don't feed it enough in the summer. So I don't do it in the summer. The fall and the winter and the early spring is the time that I make sourdough bread. I know when I'm ready to make bread because my starter is full. My bowl is full of my starter. So here it is in all its glory. It's really foamy on top, and it has a nice kind of fermented smell. The kind of smell that you would expect from sourdough bread. Now, you can see that the water, there's a layer of water on top, and the flour part has settled to the bottom. It just separates as it sits, and that's fine. You just want a nice bubbly top. You don't want to see any mold. If you see mold or if it starts to smell off, then you want to throw it out. So there's been a lot of people who have emailed me, like I said, in the last year, and some of those have tried making sourdough bread and they've had some failures. So here's some basic, simple rules that you need to think about when you're making sourdough bread. I already mentioned temperature. That's really important. Like I said, I only make it in the winter. In the house, it's about 70 degrees. I feel like that is a really good temperature for me, only having to feed the sourdough starter 1 time a day. Then the other thing you have to think about is your flour. What kind of flour are you using? Because that will affect your sourdough starter. It's not going to grow if you don't use the right flour. And the right flour is not something that has been bleached. If it's bleached, it's going to kill your sourdough starter, basically. Any bleached flour is going to kill your bacteria. Your bacteria will not grow. You're just going to have a moldy mess. The other thing is your water. You want to use only non-chlorinated filtered water. Again, chlorine in your water, any kind of chemicals in your water, they're going to kill those little friendly bacteria that you're desperately trying to grow. So you're not going to be able to establish a good starter if you're using anything other than filtered water. If you need to go to the store, get your water, buy some filtered water from the store devoted to your sourdough starter. But our opinion here on the Homestead is that you should be filtering your water all the time anyway. So we have a big Berkey we use, and our well water or the rainwater we collect goes into the big Berkey, and that is what I use for making my sourdough starter. So flour. Flour is the big question, and that's the question I always get. You should not use bleached flour. I already mentioned that. Bleached white flour, just your regular standard flour, will not work. Now, I know that they make sourdough from that that you would be able to purchase in the store, but that's not true sourdough. That has a sourdough flavor, but it's a yeast product, a commercial yeast bread product. It's not a old-fashioned sourdough bread. So you can't use bleached flour. This is the flour that I use. After several years of making bread, even just regular commercial yeast bread, this is my favorite flour I've ever found. And it just makes a good textured bread, I found. Okay, hard white spring. Every 100% natural wheat will have three things: hard, white, spring. So you can have a variety of either hard or soft, white or red, spring or winter. So those three things. So like I said, this is my favorite flour. There was someone who made a fan of our website, Anita. Thank you, Anita, for this information. She messaged me and gave me the flour that she had used successfully. So, and she had purchased that, I think she said, at Walmart. So you should be able to find it out there. The Arrowhead Mills brand makes an organic, unbleached, all-purpose flour. She used a combination of that flour along with the King Arthur flour, 100% organic whole wheat flour. So those two she used. So a starter is so easy. The first day, 2 cups flour, 2 cups water. Stir that together. Leave it on your counter. The next day, the same time, 1 cup flour, 1 cup water. Stir it together, leave it. I like this size of bowl because by the time the bowl is full, my starter is ready. It's that simple. You don't have to put it in the fridge, just leave it on the counter. 2 cups flour, 2 cups water to start. Next day, 1 cup water, 1 cup flour. Next day after that, 1 cup water, 1 cup flour, and keep going until your bowl is full. And by the time your bowl is full, you should have that nice fermented smell. All right, for my recipe, all it is flour, water, and salt. 3 ingredients: flour, water, and salt. I use 1.5 teaspoons salt. This is 1/2 cup filtered water. Okay, into my bowl, I'm measuring 4 cups of starter. Stir that up, and then all you're going to do is just add more flour to get to your bread consistency. You know, I view bread making as more of an art. Yes, there are some scientific principles involved, but it is more of an art. You just got to do it, because the more you do it, you'll know the right texture, you'll feel how it should be, and you'll develop confidence. Confidence is the biggest thing, I think. I've taken it out of my bowl and put it on the counter, and I'm just going to knead it for a while. I'm going to add more flour. As it gets stickier and stickier after I've mixed in the flour, I'm going to add more flour just until I get it to that consistency that I like. All right, so I've kneaded my dough for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15. Sometimes I fudge a little bit and err on the side of 10. The recipe says 15. But you'll see that this dough is a lot more stiff than if you would make homemade bread with commercial yeast. So it really gives you a good workout for 10 minutes. Anyway, so it's a nice, you'll see that I have a little bit on my hands, but it's not, like really, really sticky. And I didn't actually have to add any more flour back. If it pulls away from the counter, just fine. That's what you want. You don't want to add too much flour, then your dough will be too stiff. You can't knead it, and it's not going to be wet enough to really give you a good rise. So this is just fine. It's smooth on top. not too sticky. And I'm forming this into a ball because I'm going to put it in my Dutch oven. I'm using my Dutch oven today, and it's a camp-style Dutch oven. You'll see that it has feet. And I specifically use this when I bake inside my wood stove because the feet elevate it off the bottom of the wood stove. I like to score mine on top. Depending on my mood, I'll create a different pattern, but today I'm just going to give 3 little slices. Not too deep. Okay, so this is all ready, and it's going to rise all day. Like, I literally mean all day. It's 10 o'clock right now, so hopefully it'll be risen enough that I can bake it for dinner. I have my bread all ready to go. It's sitting here next to our wood stove. I want it to stay warm throughout the day, so this is a good spot for it. If you don't have a wood stove, you'll need to figure out a good warm spot. If I didn't have a wood stove, I would sit it next to where my oven vents. So maybe once in a while I'll turn on the oven just to get a little heat and then turn it off. You don't want it to be hot, you just want to sit it next to a place that's warm. So that's what I would do if I didn't have a wood stove, is sit it next to where my oven vents. The other thing you want to consider is you don't want your bread to the top of your dough to dry out during the day. So I have this little tea towel and I've just dampened it with some water. It's not soaking, it's just a little damp. And then I'm going to place that over the top. And throughout the day, I'll just check to see if it's still damp. If it's not, I'll re-dampen it and put it back over the top. And then that's it. I mean, you're just going to let it sit all day and it's going to do its thing. And we'll come back at the end of the day and see where it's at. All right, it's late in the afternoon and I'm ready to get my bread in to bake. And we'll just check to see what it looks like. It looks pretty good. It'll swell up a little higher once it's baked. So this is how I bake bread in the winter. I just shove my coals to the back of the wood stove. So I've got a good bed of coals there in the back. And normally if you were going to bake in a Dutch oven, you would lay some coals on top. I'm not going to do that. I just shoved my coals to the back and I'm going to bake with the lid off. And I just set it there in front and close the door. And then I'll come back and check it in about 10 minutes and then rotate the Dutch oven so that it bakes evenly. So cool, success. I'm so excited. I have a really nice looking loaf of sourdough bread. And the only ingredients were 100% whole wheat, non-GMO flour, water, and salt. Literally nothing else went into this loaf except, a lot of my effort. But, if you really want to do this, it's possible. It doesn't take that much time during the day. I feed my sourdough once a day. It took me probably hands-on time. It took me probably about 15-20 minutes to make this loaf today. So that's completely possible. Once you get it figured out, you can do it. If you have the desire, you can do it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Go make your sourdough. Give us the pictures. I always love to see pictures of what you try. And also, if you are a seasoned sourdough baker, give us your tips in the comments because we can all learn something. Like, it really, really helps to share whatever tips have worked for you. So, see you next time on the Homestead.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button below the video. It really means a lot to us. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Now you can support An American Homestead by becoming a patron. Visit patreon.com/AnAmericanHomestead to see all the benefits of becoming a patron of our channel. You'll get access to private videos, pictures, and even live question and answer sessions that you can participate in. Some patrons will even receive free gifts throughout the year from the Homestead. Visit patreon.com/AnAmericanHomestead to check it out and see the rewards of supporting our channel.